Stories from the Interior. Story 11. The lanterns took a path. I wasn't supposed to stay on the land, not officially. It wasn't mine yet. Just a cleared plot tucked deep in the pines outside Natchez, Mississippi. 40 acres of quiet. No structures, no neighbors, just dirt, timber, and a promise I'd build soon. The old caretaker, a man named Ray, handed me the gate key and said I could park there for the weekend. "You'll be fine," he muttered. "But keep it dark at night. No high beams after sundown. It stirs up things." I smiled, thought he was being colorful. Southern types sometimes talk like that, half warning, half folklore. I nodded like I understood, but I didn't, not really. That first night, I parked my truck on the south edge of the property. I cracked the windows, killed the engine, and sat in the growing dark. The sky dimmed slow and thick, like someone smudging out the sun with charcoal. The air smelled like cedar and dry bark. I dozed off early. The forest was so quiet, the kind of silence that wraps around your ears like cotton. Not even bugs, just the distant rustle of trees shifting in their sleep. Sometime past midnight, I woke up. No sound, no wind. The cab of the truck had gone cold. I reached for my jacket, then, by reflex, flicked the headlights. I didn't mean to. Just a quick turn of the knob, pure habit from every groggy highway. Stop I'd made before. The high beams flared out into the trees, clean, blinding white. I caught something in the mirror. Just a flash, a shimmer. Then nothing. I turned the lights off, heart kicking a bit harder. I sat still, waited. That's when they came. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tiny lights, pale yellow, spaced perfectly, floating low between the trees, moving in a line. Not fast, not slow, just steady. Lanterns. At least, that's what they looked like. But there were no handles, no sway, no source. They didn't cast light outward, only glowed like embers trapped in glass. I sat frozen. The lights kept coming. A straight line, always evenly spaced, always low to the ground. I reached for the ignition, then stopped. I don't know why. The lights weren't heading toward me. They curved slightly left, then right, like they were following an invisible path. A path I couldn't see. And then they stopped, dead, still. 12 of them now, hovering just past the tree line. That's when I realized. None of them had flickered. Not once. No dimming. No movement. I cracked the door. Just a bit. The cold outside was sharper now, almost metallic in my nose. The air, it felt too still. One of the lights shifted. Just an inch, then another, like something inside it had moved. I shut the door, locked it. A sound clicked behind me, a tap, like fingernail on glass. I turned slowly. The rear window was fogging, but only in one small circle, right in the center. Another tap, same spot. I couldn't breathe. My fingers wouldn't move right. The lights began to drift again, slowly, turning toward me. Each one pulsing now, very faintly, like they were breathing or listening. I don't know how long I sat there. 5 minutes. 10. Then all at once, every light blinked out. Darkness slammed down like a curtain. I couldn't see the trees, the dirt, my own hands. And from that blackness, I heard them. Not footsteps, not whispers, just presence. Movement without sound. They were coming closer. I didn't wait. I started the truck and drove. Fast. Gravel snapping under the tires. My hands were shaking so bad I almost missed the gate. Ray was waiting in his truck, headlights off. He didn't say a word when I stopped next to him, just looked at me, like he already knew. "You turned them on," he said quietly. I nodded. He looked toward the woods. They remember patterns. Once a light touches them, they keep walking that line. I haven't been back since. But sometimes, even now, when I'm parked alone on some highway, I check the mirror. And I swear, I see them. Faint, evenly spaced, following something, following me. I need to know. Has anyone else seen lights like that? Not fire, not headlights, just lanterns. If you've seen them, please, tell me I'm not the only one. Story 12. They stop when you move. I wasn't supposed to use the lights. That was the only rule. No lights after dark, not even the fridge one. The house sits at the end of a gravel road, nestled in pine and fog, like it was dropped there and forgotten. I was just watching it for a week. A favor for a friend of a friend. Rural Idaho, no neighbors, no phone signal, nothing. The note on the fridge was handwritten. Simple. Do not turn on any lights after sunset. They stop when you move. That last part, I thought it was a joke, or someone being overly cautious about wildlife. Bears, maybe. I shrugged it off. The first few nights were uneventful. I read by daylight, showered before 6, went to bed early. I followed the rule, but on the fourth night, I got careless. The sun dipped faster than I expected, and I still hadn't washed the dishes. It was too dim. I couldn't see the sink. So I flipped the kitchen switch. The bulb clicked. A soft hum filled the room. I stood there blinking in the sudden light. That's when I heard it. A knock. Gentle. Measured. 3 taps. Then silence. From the back porch. I froze. The window, above the sink, faced the porch. I didn't want to look, but I did. There was a light outside. A faint glow. Hovering. Not swinging like a lantern would in wind. It just stayed there. Suspended. Unmoving. I turned off the bulb. Everything went dark. The knocking stopped. I backed away from the window, heart thudding in my ears. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe it was a flashlight. Someone hiking. A ranger. But I hadn't seen a single person since I got there. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured that soft glow outside, waiting. I left the lights off after that. Even lit. Candles felt too risky. I spent the next day watching shadows shift across the floor. By the 6th night, I was jumpy. I kept hearing things. Soft steps on the gravel, the creak of porch boards. But when I looked, nothing. No light, no knock. Until I went to brush my teeth. I'd left the hallway light on by accident, just for a second. Knock, knock, knock. I didn't go near the window. I didn't need to. I felt it. Something watching, waiting. The note came back to me. They stop when you move. So I moved. I paced in circles, clapped, hummed, talked to myself. I stayed in motion until sunrise. That's what I've been doing ever since. Movement, always. But tonight, I slipped. I was watching the trees. I stood too still. They knew. The knocking started again. But now, there's more than one. 2 knocks, then 3, then 4. Different rhythms from different parts of the house. Not just the porch, the walls, the windows, the attic vent, and the lights. I can't risk it. Even the fridge hum feels too loud. I'm writing this by moonlight. I saw the glow again. Not one this time. 5, 6, floating just past the tree line. Not moving, not flickering. Like eyes. I don't know what they are, but I know what they do. They wait. They get closer when you're still. I keep walking, talking, whispering. I knock back sometimes just to see if they mimic me. They don't. I haven't eaten. I haven't slept. My legs are shaking, but I can't stop. Please, if anyone's heard them, seen the lights, tell me I'm not alone. Tell me how long you lasted. Story 13. Reflections with no source. The fog didn't roll in. It waited. Thick, still, like it had already been there before I stepped out on the back porch. I was renting the cabin for a long weekend. A writer's retreat, I told myself. No internet, no neighbors. Just me, a fire pit, and the vineyard hills around Yam Hill. The kind of silence you don't notice right away until it's the only thing left. The pond sat maybe 30 feet from the porch, almost round, ringed by tall reeds and willow branches that leaned toward the water like they were listening. I hadn't noticed it much during the day, just a shimmer beyond the grass, But that night, something changed. I saw light, faint, moving, flickering. It looked like someone walking along the edge of the pond, holding a lantern, maybe two people. The reflections bobbed softly on the water, like distant fireflies caught in a rhythm. But when I leaned forward, heart already tapping, I realized something was wrong. There was no wind. The trees weren't swaying. Nothing was moving, except those lights. I thought it must be headlights from the road, but the cabin sat on private land. The gravel path dead-ended at the gate. Besides, there was no sound, no engine, no crunch of tires, and the lights didn't flash. They danced, slow, deliberate, like someone was pacing in silence, just out of reach. I went inside and turned off every light, sat by the window and watched. At some point I realized I'd been holding my breath. I exhaled so hard it fogged the glass. When I wiped it away, the lights were gone. I told myself it was just a trick. Low fog, moonlight, maybe wine in my system. I even laughed out loud to fill the quiet. The next day I asked the caretaker, old guy, thin flannel shirt tucked too tight, about the pond. I didn't even explain what I saw, just asked if it ever flooded or had lighting issues. He didn't answer right away, just looked past me toward the window, then said, "They see reflections first." I laughed again, nervous this time, like maybe it was a local joke. But he didn't laugh, didn't blink. I didn't sleep that night. The fog was worse, pressed against the windows like wet cotton. I didn't see the lights at first, but I heard something. A soft slosh, like someone wading into the water. I froze, turned my head slowly toward the window. Nothing, just black glass. My own pale reflection looking back at me. But it wasn't just mine. There was something behind me, faint, shadowy. Not a shape exactly, but a presence. I spun around. Empty room. I looked back at the glass. Gone. Only me now. Only me. I packed before dawn. Left the dishes, the bedding, even the fire still burning low. Drove with the headlights off until I hit the main road. I kept thinking about what the caretaker said. They see reflections first. First. Meaning there's more. Meaning it doesn't stop there. I haven't turned on a light since. Not in the hallway. Not in the car. Not even in the bathroom mirror at night. I shower in the dark. Eat in the dark. Because it's not the shadows that scare me. It's what you see reflected when there's no source. Last night I saw something again. On the TV screen. It was off. I was walking past and there it was. Me. And something over my shoulder. Not behind me. Over me. Watching. Please. If you've ever seen something like this. In the mirror. The pond. The screen. If the reflection moved but you didn't. Tell me. Tell me I'm not the only one. Tell me it hasn't started for you too. Story 14. Pulse beneath the soil. I never liked going to Uncle Ray's place. The silence out there felt wrong, not peaceful, not quiet, just off, like something was waiting underneath it. I only went because Mom begged me, said he was getting old, needed someone to check in for the week. But the moment I stepped off the bus and saw that faded red farmhouse surrounded by flat, endless land, I regretted saying yes. He greeted me with a nod, barely spoke, the same way I remembered from when I was little. We ate in silence that night, him chewing slowly, staring past me toward the window. It was almost dark when he finally spoke. Don't turn on any lamps after sunset, not a single one. No explanation, just that. Then he stood up, locked the front and back doors, and disappeared into his room. That first night I obeyed. Sat in the dim kitchen, phone flashlight off to save battery. He didn't have Wi-Fi. I read some old newspaper clippings he kept in a drawer. Articles about strange sightings. Unusual sky patterns over East Prairie. Soil disruption in cattle fields. He had notes scribbled in the margins. Numbers, times, phases of the moon. By the third night, the silence was unbearable. No crickets, no wind. Even the house seemed to hold its breath. I lit a candle in the living room just to see something flicker. My uncle came out of his room within seconds, blew it out. His eyes looked scared, like something might have seen us. The fifth night, I was alone. He'd gone to town for supplies. I was bored. The sun had just dipped, horizon still glowing faintly orange. I reached for the lamp on the bedside table. I hesitated, then I flipped the switch. At first, nothing happened. The bulb buzzed faintly, warming up. I leaned back, rolled my eyes. But then I noticed a glow through the thin curtain. Outside. I pulled the fabric aside. Dots of light were forming in the soil. Not scattered randomly, but in clusters. Each pulsing slowly, then together, then apart again, like a pattern, like a heartbeat. I pressed my face closer. The glow was soft but deep, like it came from below the earth. And just above those spots, lights. Small, dim orbs, floating in place, moving up and down, perfectly in sync with the pulses below. I turned the lamp off. The lights vanished instantly, every single one. I sat there, frozen, listening. But the silence wasn't empty anymore. It felt dense, full of attention, like something outside was waiting for a mistake. That night, I didn't sleep. The next evening, curiosity won. I waited until after dark. Then I flicked on the hallway light. The pulse began again, but this time, it moved. From the edge of the field toward the house, like a slow ripple, one glow at a time. I stood at the window, my breath fogging the glass. The lights above followed the path, like they were tethered to something underground. Then came the sound, a low thud, like pressure shifting under the house, then another, and another. I ran to the front door, locked. I turned to the kitchen. The back door, already bolted, but something scratched against it. Not hard, just brushing, repeated, measured. I backed away. The lights outside pulsed brighter. My ears rang. I couldn't tell if the rhythm was in the ground or in me. I grabbed my phone. No service, no signal, no clock, just black screen. The lights in the house flickered. One by one they dimmed, not out, just softer, like something was drawing power from them. I heard the basement door creak. I didn't know it had a basement. I don't remember walking toward it. I just was there, hand on the knob. The air was colder near it. The wood felt damp. I leaned in, trying to hear. A soft hum, coming from below. I opened the door, pitch black, but beneath that darkness, a faint red glow, throbbing, like breath, or something alive. I stepped back, closed the door, sat on the floor and waited for morning. My uncle never came back. I don't know how long I stayed there. 3 nights? 4? I never turned on another light. The pulses stopped, but I still hear them. Sometimes when I close my eyes, and sometimes when the lamp flickers at night. If anyone else has seen lights like that, please tell me I'm not the only one. I just need to know I'm not imagining this, that I didn't bring it back with me. Story 15. Every night, a little closer. I hadn't even wanted to come here. The rehab center was tucked deep into the woods outside Somerset, Kentucky, far enough from anything that even the drive-in made my skin crawl. But my therapist insisted. Isolation can be healing, she said. No phones, no distractions. Just me, my thoughts, and a rustic cabin that smelled faintly of cedar and dust. That first night, I left the windows open. I wanted to hear the woods breathe. It was around 2 a.m. when I noticed the light. Faint, orange, flickering. Not from the cabins, those were all dark. The staff made sure we kept things off after 10. This was something else. Through the trees, maybe 200 yards out. It hovered, then blinked out. I stared for a while, waiting for it to return, but the silence pressed against the glass like fog. I told myself it was probably someone with a lantern, a hiker, a hunter, someone who'd lost their way. I closed the curtain and tried not to think about how still the night had become. The second night, it came back. This time, 2 lights, not one. They moved, slowly, side by side, dipping behind the line of trees and reappearing a little closer, maybe 100 yards out. My room was dark, and I stayed crouched beside the window. I didn't move, didn't breathe too loudly, just watched. They didn't sway like flashlights. They flickered, like fire, but steady, almost too steady. No wind, no voices, no footsteps on the gravel. After 20 minutes, they faded again. I didn't sleep. I told the staff the next morning. They nodded politely. Sometimes locals cut through the woods, one said. Best to keep your curtains shut at night. But their eyes didn't meet mine. And when I asked if there were cameras, they changed the subject. Night 3, I kept the window closed. Didn't matter. The lanterns came again. 3 this time. They stood at the edge of the trees, just where the forest met the clearing around the cabins. I turned off all lights early, sat in the dark for hours. They didn't move this time, just stood, watching. I couldn't see figures, not really, just shapes, shadows behind the glow, like someone holding them low, near the ground, waiting. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was taut, pressurized. I pressed my hand against the window pane and felt cold, unnatural cold, like the glass was breathing out. The 4th night, they were on the gravel drive. That's maybe 20 feet from my porch. I didn't turn on the lights. Didn't call anyone. Didn't move. I sat on the floor, my back against the bed, and watched the glow pulse through the blinds. It lit the room faintly, orange and steady, flickering just enough to feel alive. There were 4 now. I couldn't see their faces, but they knew I was watching. One of the lights moved, just a little, a step forward, then another. Slow. Like whoever held it was walking without sound, without effort. I thought about opening the door, asking who they were, but my body refused. My mind screamed something wordless and ancient. And then, one of the lights tilted. Not down, but up, toward the window, as if it saw me, as if it wanted me to know. I blinked, and they were gone. No footsteps, no fade, just gone. I haven't slept since. I don't think the staff believe me. Or maybe they've seen it too. Maybe that's why no one stays here longer than a week. They haven't come again yet, but every night, I wait. Every night, I listen for gravel shifting, and I pray I never hear it. Still, if you've ever seen something like this, glowing where it shouldn't be, if you've felt eyes watching from the dark, please tell me I'm not the only one. Story 16. They react to light. I wasn't even supposed to be there that week. The farmhouse in Michigan belonged to my uncle's friend, remote, quiet, tucked between bare fields and skeletal woods. I'd offered to check on it while he recovered from surgery. No one around for miles, he said, just corn stubble, wind, and the occasional deer. That kind of quiet sounded perfect. I needed the break. It was already past 10 when I realized I'd dropped my earbud behind the couch. The living room was old wood and darker than it should have been, even with the lamps on. I tried to reach blindly, but my fingers brushed only dust and crumbs. So I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the space beneath the couch, sharp, pale, too cold for a room that still smelled faintly of tobacco and varnish. The second I lit it, something in me flinched, but I found the earbud wedged between floorboards. I turned off the light, and that's when the first sound came. A faint crunch, like dried leaves underfoot. I froze, waited. Probably a raccoon outside, I told myself. maybe a branch dropping too close to the porch. The wind here carried all sorts of sounds. I moved to the window. Nothing. Just the empty front field, silvery under the moon. But then, light. Two faint glows in the distance near the tree line. Lantern-like. Small, moving unnaturally, not swinging with a person's steps, but rising, slowly, vertically, as if something had lifted them from the soil, perfectly still once airborne. I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes. The lights pulsed. I turned off every lamp in the room, stepped back from the window, waited. A full minute passed. No sound, no movement. Then, both lights shifted, not down, not up, toward me, gliding, steady, like twin eyes blinking open in the dark. And, I swear, they were coming faster now. I moved through the kitchen with my phone pressed to my chest. Didn't dare turn it back on. My fingers itched to hit the flashlight again, just to see. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not after what I'd seen. I crouched by the back door, held my breath. Nothing. Then, a scraping noise. From the porch. It wasn't footsteps. It was softer, slower, like something dragging against the wooden boards. I strained to hear. Was it breathing? No. Too wet for that. Like air passing through broken reeds. My hand shook. The phone screen lit up briefly when my finger brushed it. Just a dim glow. But it was enough. The noise stopped. Everything outside paused. Then came the knock. Not loud, not aggressive. Just deliberate. 1, 2, 3. As if it knew the shape of the door. As if it had done this before. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. And still, I felt it. The presence, pressing against the other side of the wood, not trying to break in, just waiting. They reacted to the light. My light. They saw me. They knew where I was. Another knock. This one lower, near the floor. I could almost imagine a shape. Crouched, sniffing, watching. I backed away, inch by inch, until my spine met the cold stove. Hours passed like that, or minutes. Time doesn't work right when you're waiting for something to go wrong. Eventually, the sound faded. The lights dimmed. I watched them sink slowly, back into the earth, or whatever was pretending to be earth. And now, I don't turn on lights anymore. Not when I'm alone, not when it's late, not since that night. But I have to ask you something. Have you ever seen lights that didn't come from anything? If anyone else has experienced this, please tell me. I just need to know I'm not the only one. Story 17. The lanterns, no timing. I hadn't even planned on going. The letter sat unopened for 2 weeks. Thin, yellowed paper from some lawyer's office in Cheyenne. Inheritance, it said. A cabin. I didn't even know I had an uncle on that side of the family. But the words stuck with me. No one's lived there since '94. Something about that date made my skin tighten. So I drove up, through 2 towns, past fences that leaned like drunks, and into a field that didn't. Welcome, company. The man who met me outside the property office looked like he hadn't spoken aloud in days. His beard was uneven. His coat was from another era. When he pressed the keys into my hand, he held them longer than necessary. "It's quiet out there," he said, "but you don't want to be outside too long after dark." I forced a smile. He didn't smile back. "At 9:33, he whispered. "The lights walk." I blinked. He stepped back, as if his job was done. I didn't ask him to explain. The cabin was crooked, half sunk into the Wyoming soil, boards splintering like brittle teeth. The roof sagged, everything creaked. Inside, dust made the air thick. Furniture stood like forgotten sentinels. A single light bulb flickered when I flipped the switch. I told myself I'd only stay the night, just long enough to see what needed repairs. Maybe sell it, maybe burn it. I dropped my bag and opened a window. The wind carried a strange smell, iron, maybe. and sagebrush. I thought I heard footsteps then, but they stopped when I listened harder. There was no clock in the house, but my phone read 9:17 p.m. I had almost forgotten the old man's words until I looked up. The window faced an open field, flat and silvered by moonlight. Nothing unusual. But then I saw the first glow, a faint orb rising slowly from the brush like it had been waiting. Then another and another. Each light hovered, warm like lanterns, yet not attached to anything. No poles, no strings, just hovering. I counted 6, then 8, all in a line. They moved. Not floated, moved. Deliberate, horizontal, smooth. Across the field like soldiers on patrol. My chest tightened. I stepped back from the window, and they stopped. Every single one. Paused. Like they knew. I waited. Breath caught. When I moved again, just a shift in weight, they resumed. Still in that perfect line. I don't know how long I stood there. My hands were sweating. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I looked. 9:33 p.m. I didn't breathe. The air changed. The room felt thin, like the walls weren't enough. The lights kept moving slowly, now angling toward the cabin. Still silent. No hum, no wind. Just those orbs gliding with impossible coordination. I ducked, crawled away from the window. My foot hit something, a photo frame face down on the floor. I picked it up. The picture was faded. A boy, holding a lantern. His eyes were wide. Behind him, I swear I saw the same lights, in the same formation. I crawled into the kitchen. Every floorboard betrayed me. I don't know why I whispered, "Please." Maybe to no one, maybe to the house itself. Then I heard it, a knock, not at the door, on the back wall, soft, rhythmic, like fingers tapping in time with a pulse. My pulse. I pressed my back against the cabinet. Another knock, a pause, then another, closer, and I swear, God, I swear, I saw one of those lights. Inside, not glowing, reflecting. On the oven door, just for a second. I turned to look and it vanished, but the cold stayed. Not cold like winter, cold like hospital tile, like breath held too long. I gripped the phone. I wanted to call someone. But what would I say? At 9:42, the lights were gone, or at least I couldn't see them. I stayed on the floor until my phone died. I didn't sleep, didn't blink much either. The knocking stopped, but I kept hearing it, in the pipes, in my spine, in my thoughts. I left before dawn, didn't even grab my bag. I don't know what they are, or why they paused when I moved, but I know they were waiting for something. A signal, a mistake, or maybe just time. They knew when to walk, down to the minute. And if anyone else has seen them, those lights that move like they're alive, please, please tell me. Am I the only one? Story 18. Through the fog. They glide. It wasn't supposed to be anything special, just a long drive up the coast, Maine in late October. The kind of trip you take when you're tired of everything and don't want to explain why. I didn't book hotels ahead. I liked pulling over when I got too tired to continue. That night the fog came in fast, heavy, thick, like it wanted to swallow the road. I slowed down, squinting through the windshield. Headlights barely reached the edge of the shoulder. Then I saw the mailbox, white, rusted, marked Allen, 1937. The driveway was narrow, choked by trees, and I could barely make out the shape of the house at the end. It looked abandoned. No porch light, no car. But I was too tired to keep going. I pulled in, rolled to a stop, killed the engine. I sat there listening to the tick of the cooling hood. Everything was quiet, except for the fog pressing in, like a weight on the air. The house wasn't locked. I opened the front door slowly, calling out, just in case. Nothing answered. Inside smelled like wood and something faintly sour. like old apples. Furniture draped in sheets, dust on every surface. No electricity, no running water, but the sofa looked stable and there was a blanket. I figured one night wouldn't hurt. I lit a candle I found in the kitchen drawer. The flame flickered strangely, leaning slightly, as if pushed. I tried not to think about it, pulled the curtain just a little so I could see out, and settled into the silence. It was sometime after midnight when I noticed the glow. Soft. Moving. I leaned forward, peering through the slit in the curtain. Out in the fog, small orbs of light. Drifting. Not swinging like lanterns, just floating. Each about the size of a fist. Pale yellow. Silent. They moved slowly. Closer. To the house. Then stopped. Hovered. There was no sound. Not even insects. I held my breath. The fog behind them seemed to pulse, like it was alive, shifting with them. One light drifted left. The others followed. No pattern. No trail. Then they circled. The car. I got up, heart hammering, and blew out the candle. Darkness swallowed everything. I stayed near the window, eyes barely adjusted, watching the lights move in slow arcs, never touching the ground. One of them stopped. Right at the base of the porch, it pulsed once, dimmed, and I swear I heard something then, a soft scrape, like fabric over wood, or something dragging. I backed away from the window. My foot hit the leg of the sofa. The floor creaked. Outside, the lights stopped moving, all of them. They hovered in place, silent, and then slowly they turned. Not like objects, more like eyes. I don't know how I knew. I just did. They were looking at me, through the fog, through the walls. I dropped to the floor. My skin felt cold. My teeth were clenched so hard they ached. I didn't move, not for what felt like hours. Then, just as slowly as they came, the lights began to drift away. One by one, back into the trees, back into the fog. I waited until dawn before standing. The light outside was gray-blue. The fog still clung to the ground, but the lights were gone. I don't remember falling asleep, but when I woke up, there were smudges on the inside of the window. 5 of them. Oval. Like fingerprints from the other side. Except no one else had been in the house. I still don't know what I saw that night. They didn't knock, didn't call out, just floated, watched, waited. Sometimes I wonder if I moved too soon, or if I hadn't blown out the candle. And I need to ask, have you ever seen lights like that? Moving with no sound, watching you like they knew you were there? Please, if you've seen them too, tell me I'm not the only one. Story 19. Echoes of footsteps. They told us never to use bright lights after dark. No explanations, just that strange, calm warning. If you're staying here overnight, the woman said, keep it dim, always. That was the first thing that made me uneasy. Not the crumbling shed, not the smell of damp earth, not the scratches on the back fence, just the way she said it, and how her husband stared at the floor while she spoke. We were in rural Colorado, helping them restore an old mountain house, the kind of place that looked abandoned even when lights were on. Isolated, foggy, a good 2-hour drive from the nearest store. They offered us a big tent to sleep in, right on the edge of the property. Said we could stay there as long as we wanted, free meals included. It felt generous, too generous, but I said yes. I always say yes to things I probably shouldn't. The days were long and cold. We stripped wallpaper, hauled debris, fixed cracks in the old wooden frame. They barely spoke to each other, or to us, just handed us tools, gave instructions, and disappeared for hours. The house had this smell, like wet smoke, not just inside. It clung to the trees too. And at night, even with no wind, the air buzzed like static. By the 4th day, I couldn't sleep. The tent felt too exposed. I kept hearing things, branches snapping, breathing, always distant, always just enough to keep my eyes open. My partner laughed it off. Probably deer. He fell asleep instantly every night. I stayed awake, staring at the tent ceiling, heart racing at nothing. That night I broke the rule. We'd run out of batteries for our headlamps, and I couldn't find my phone. So I lit the lantern, just for a second. Warm yellow glow filled the tent, gentle, comforting. I exhaled. For the first time in hours, I felt safe. Then, footsteps, fast, crunching gravel, circling. We froze. No voices, no flashlights, just steps, one after another. Fast, then slow. Closer, then retreating. My partner whispered, "Turn it off." I couldn't move. I was stuck staring at the tent wall, watching shadows twitch. There was no wind, but something brushed the tent fabric, right where my back was. He reached over me and turned off the lantern. Darkness swallowed us. The footsteps stopped. Complete silence. No rustling, no breathing. Just that thick, ringing stillness. I wanted to scream. We lay there until the sky turned pale. Neither of us spoke. We didn't even unzip the tent. Only when sunlight spilled in did we dare look outside. There were no footprints, no trampled grass, only strange soot-colored outlines on the ground. They looked like legs, like someone had stood there, right outside our tent, facing us, still, watching. Both sides, two figures, perfectly symmetrical. I asked the couple about it. The woman didn't blink. She said, "You turned on a light, didn't you?" I nodded. Her husband walked away. She didn't explain. She didn't need to. Her eyes said enough. I don't camp anymore. Not in forests, not in backyards, not anywhere I can't lock a door, and I've never used a lantern since. But last week, I heard footsteps outside my apartment. I live on the 4th floor. No balcony, no stairs. Outside. They didn't knock. They didn't try the door. They just stood there. I felt them. Like heat. Like pressure against the glass. I need to ask this. Have you ever broken a rule that didn't make sense, and then realized it wasn't a rule? It was a warning? If you've heard those footsteps too, please, tell me I'm not the only one. Story 20. The stillness. Afterglow. Jake's cabin was isolated, but not in a threatening way, more like quiet therapy after city noise. Pine trees all around, a lake behind the hill. He said I could use it alone. Just remember to keep the bear latch on the trash cans. The first night I couldn't sleep, not from fear, just still adjusting. Everything creaked in a wooden cabin, and the wind kept brushing pine needles against the windows like fingers too soft to knock. I dropped my keys somewhere between the car and the porch. I didn't notice until I heard them fall. Soft click, then nothing. No bounce, just silence. I flipped the porch light. The bulb buzzed. A cone of yellow spilled onto the grass, damp and uneven. I stepped carefully, scanning the gravel. Then I froze. Everything had stopped. No crickets, no wind, no creaking trees, just stillness. Like the world took a breath and held it. Then the lights appeared. 3 of them, low to the ground, maybe 2 feet up. Not flashlights, more like lanterns. Round, steady, pale yellow with no flicker, right at the edge of the tree line. They didn't move. They didn't sway. They just stayed there. My skin crawled. I squinted. No figures, no movement, just those lights. Watching, waiting. I didn't know. I backed up to the porch. Slowly. The bulb above me dimmed for a second, then came back. But the air felt wrong. Not cold exactly. Hollow. Like all the warmth had drained without changing the temperature. I called Jake. No signal. I told myself it was campers, hikers with lanterns. But who hikes at midnight without moving or talking? Who stands perfectly still in total silence? I found my keys, right near the first step. I grabbed them, fumbled to unlock the door. Inside, I shut off every light, pulled the curtains, locked the deadbolt, I sat on the floor, back against the wall, waiting. Then the floorboards creaked. Not from me, just one creak. In the hallway. I held my breath, counted to 5. Nothing. 10 seconds later, another creak. Closer. No footsteps, just one sound. Then stillness. I remembered the back door. I hadn't checked it. My chest tightened. The third creak came from the other side of the room. I turned on my phone flashlight and aimed it. Nothing there. Empty floor, empty hallway. But I swear, the air shimmered, just a little, like heat over asphalt. Then it stopped. I stayed like that until morning, paralyzed, listening. At dawn, I opened the curtains. No lights, no creaks, just trees swaying again, birds, sound, normalcy. I left before noon, locked the cabin, never looked back. Jake called later that night. He asked if I'd seen the porch camera alerts. I told him I didn't even know there was a camera. He paused. Then he said, around 11:42 p.m., it showed you standing outside, just staring at the woods, for over 20 minutes. But I don't remember that. I wasn't outside. I was inside. Hiding. Right. If anyone's ever seen those lights, the ones that don't move, don't blink, please tell me what they are. Tell me I wasn't the only one who felt the world stop.